What's up? We're a couple minutes early. Um, so feel free to say hello as y'all pop in. You can read the description. We are talking, uh, moving around overseas, doing deals overseas, and um, generating income while you move around. What's up? What's up? Say hello as you pop in, pretty please. All right. So most people who follow me know I've been living overseas for, I guess, a little over 10 years. And most people would kind of put me in a category of expat. But I actually was an expat for a couple of years and then realized that being kind of stationary in one country wasn't the greatest move. And so since then, I've become a little bit, well, not a little bit more, I've become more of a nomad. Now, the other thing that y'all know is I'm not one of the nomads that's like anti-America. It's like, I don't want anything to do with America. I was just in the US, and the US has its benefits of just being able to do business. One of the things, and everything just comes with its pros and cons. So if you're in the Patreon, we had a training on getting access to $1 million in debt without a credit check, and how we help folks to be able to do that. So be sure to check out that training. But one of the great things about the US is like having access to lending. I just got some new credit cards for points and that kind of thing today. And that's something just literally, it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world the way that it does in the US. And so there's pros and cons there. The con is it increases the value of the assets. So real estate in America is a controlled bubble. So it's literally a bubble, but it's controlled. And so with the mortgage rates that that the government decides on and the availability of mortgages, they control the bubble. And the reason that it's a bubble is that if you got rid of mortgages today in America, the way that most other countries operate. So, I'm in Peru right now. We're doing this deal that involves a piece of real estate, and there's no, like mortgages don't exist the way that it does there. And if you do get a mortgage, it's just outrageous interest rates. It's a whole different thing. In like short term amortizations in about 5 years, it just is a totally different thing. So obviously, even if you had 5-year mortgages, only if the max mortgage was 5 years, let alone like maybe even 10 years, the whole dynamics of the market of real estate changes in America. Now, the cool thing is that creates this opportunity to have arbitrage. Because we have readily available credit, the government does that to prop up the prices of assets in the US. And so if you're just using that credit to acquire or do deals only on US based assets, you're paying that premium that everybody else is paying because you've got that low cost of credit. So everything is overpriced. So if you compare that again to, doing a deal where SBA doesn't exist, the multiples are going to naturally be lower because everybody isn't able to get access to this credit that increases the prices of everything. And so the opportunity there is being able to leverage debt, low cost debt in the US, and then go places where they don't have low cost and long amortization types of loans, and be able to do the deals in those other countries. So you get this benefit of the arbitrage that exists. And so there are all these different things. And so what you want to be able to do is, and I love like Andrew Henderson, the Nomad Capital, like Nomad Capitalist. He talks about like having 5 flags and having like some countries where you want this, some countries where you want that. Now he's anti the US, but I think that there are things that you get the benefit of from the US. He gave up his passport and citizenship and all that stuff. But there are things that you can leverage in the US, and there's other places where you get a great lifestyle. There's other places where you want to have your entities for protection against lawsuits, which in the US is like everybody's lawsuit happy. And the real interesting thing there is, you should go shopping almost for countries, right? So you should go shopping in these different places. And I think that's was one of the things that I learned early on. So my very first deal overseas was a hotel deal. And with that deal, I basically qualified to get a citizenship in that country. Not citizenship, I got a residency, and was on the path to moving towards like, oh, one day I want a passport in this country. And what I realized was that I didn't want to really be stationary. Even as I looked at my time in that country over the course of those 2 years, I could have done without, I didn't need the residency for the amount of time that I actually spent there. Now, there are other countries like Portugal where they actually require you to be in the country a certain amount of times. So I think that the difference there is, on one end you have kind of the nomadic lifestyle, on the other end you have the expat lifestyle. So the expat is, this is my new home. This is my country. I'm living here. I'm getting residency. I'm working on getting a citizenship, getting my passport, and that kind of thing. And I think there are some places where it's beneficial to have a additional passport, but I don't necessarily think that you have to think about moving to another country. And so expats, typically, they're going to live, they're going to work, they're going to have their lifestyle, their friends, everything is kind of going to be based in one country. And then the same way that they may take trips to other countries if they were living in the US, the new home country becomes that that new place. Now, in contrast, the expat isn't necessarily an immigrant. So immigrants like, hey, this is it. This is permanently where I want to live. The expat doesn't necessarily think, okay, this is going to be where I live exclusively, but it still is kind of a home base. Now, when you move to the nomad is not just saying, hey, I'm going to be here for a couple of years, like the expat. It's definitely not saying like the immigrant, I'm going to move and live here. This is like my new home. The nomad is moving around. So it may be 3 months instead of like the expat that's 3 years in a place. The nomad may have 3 months in a place, and then it may move to another place the following year or the following 3 months, but then the following year return to that place for those 3 months. So like for me, there's a certain time of year that I love Lima. I love Peru. But then winter comes and for them it's below the equator, so their winter is basically in North America and Mexico it's summer. So that's a great time for me to either go to Asia, where it's going to be hot almost all year round, Southeast Asia because it's close to the equator, or go back and visit family in the US. I love the US in the spring and in the fall, but also not so much in the Southeast in the middle of the summer. But as a nomad, you kind of are building that lifestyle around where you want to be any particular time of year. Now, before I go any further, if you enjoy kind of what I chat about, or you're enjoying this video on some of this other private equity lifestyle, nomad living kind of thing, or you're buying a business and in the process of that, I definitely would love for you to subscribe. But also, more importantly, I'd love you to, if there's someone else that is interested in this stuff, I only get spread by word of mouth. So, the channel only benefits when you share this with other people. So if you know someone that's into this, be sure to share this live with them. All right, so let's continue. When it comes to setting up your new life abroad, I'm not saying that any of these things are right, but it's good for you to kind of plan out, because that was a surprise for me, because, when I originally got the hotel deal, did the residency, kind of went through this whole process. It was a ton of work, to get this residency, to start moving towards the path of getting the passport. It cost money. I had attorneys. It was like back and forth. I'm going to the embassies, and just it was this whole thing. And and because I figured, okay, I want to go this expat route, and the expat route can be attractive for a lot of people. It offers, multiple citizenships. It offers some awesome residency perks, and I'm glad that I had that period of doing that. And even it might be something that you do it when you're initially moving overseas, because it does make your lifestyle a little bit easier. It definitely has just some benefits, and you get to get ingrained. And I think even to this day, some of my best overseas friends are in the locations where I spent that expat time, kind of in Southeast Asia and in South America. So this is not to say that any of these strategies are right or wrong. You may go somewhere, fall in love with somebody, want to become a citizen of that country and become a full immigrant, and be like, hey, I don't really like, this is home for me forever. I want to retire here. I want to live here, have my kids here, that whole thing. But choosing that expat commitment should be something that you are aware of, and not feel like that it's a necessity. You don't have to necessarily limit your flexibility or potential opportunities. After doing that, our first 3 years living overseas, I ended up deciding against that long term. And so instead of just settling in the couple of countries that I thought that I was going to settle in, I realized that I needed to figure out how to design a life that allowed me to stay mobile, so that I could move around and be where things were best. People who were in different countries during COVID was a great example. It was a time where it was like, all right, it was very valuable for you to be able to decide where you want to live based on, what you felt like were the most favorable laws at that point. So through my interactions over the years, I mean, I've had clients that did each one of these different things. I've helped people that were overseas by businesses in the US so they can immigrate to the US and just live long term. I've had friends that actually, I had a buddy that reached out today that was, we did a deal years ago. He did a deal. He was in Australia. He was a plumber and he wanted to move overseas. And so got a deal done that was a really cool e-commerce business, and that moved him overseas. I think the real key here is, I think the first part of it is that a deal can open up your lifestyle to whatever you want it to be. So, you can close a deal that allows you to move wherever. You can close a deal that gives you residency in a country, that gives you the path to citizenship. I mean, and that works even if you're somebody who's watching this and you're outside of America and you want to get into America. One of the best ways to do that is to buy a business that's in the US. But if you're someone that wants to move abroad and take advantage of those opportunities, then that exists as well. And that's one of the things that's so funny. I was with some friends last night and they were like, everybody's trying to get into America. Like, why do you want to leave? And, it's not necessarily that I want to leave. It's just that there are other places that have other benefits. The US has its benefits, but it, just comes with its downsides of, I get there and I just feel the stress. I walk into a cafe when I'm in Paraguay and it's like people are just chill and enjoying life and things are just, very laid back. And then you go into a cafe in the US and people are, filled with anxiety and stress and that kind of thing. And so it's a great place to live, to make money. It's a great place to generate your money, but it's a great place to live, it's a horrible place to live and like actually build a life. So you want to be able to just measure what you're getting out of each place that you're going to live. The other part of this is I feel like that a lot of the allure for most people is the ability to dive into a lot of different locations. So I would actually encourage you, and this is something that I did do. So I would actually encourage you to travel around and explore a lot of diverse locations. And I think this diversity is, oh, thank you. Yes, please like if you're not, and I would love for you to share this, but at the very least, please like as you come in. We don't, this is just totally free. The only thing that you have to do is hit the like button. And that's your cost of entry. Your cost of entry is hit the like button. So I think at the very beginning, regardless of which one of these three paths that you want to go down, I think that it's really valuable to have that period where you're exploring diverse locations. And I think that that's based on culture, based on economics. Like sometimes people get scared away of places where it might be more expensive. But I think just like everything, like there's just options for everything. Like you can go to Bangkok and ball out. Like I've got some friends. I'm like, dude, why are you paying that? Like I was talking to a buddy when I was in Bangkok. I spoke at this event a little while back, and a buddy of mine, he's actually been on CNBC for moving overseas to Thailand. And so we're talking, and I'm like, dude, like on the CNBC thing, you said you were spending like $5,000 a month on your apartment. I'm like, are you really? He's like, yeah, it's $5,000 a month. I'm like, I got to go see this apartment. Like, who spends $5,000 a month in Bangkok? But obviously, he's balling out. And so, like, in any place, you can ball out. You can kind of be in the middle, or you can be really. I equally have friends that are just as happy as my homeboy, who are spending $500 a month and have really nice places. So that's something that you want to consider. It's like exploring different places. I would look at places that aren't very restrictive on you being able to enter and travel and go in and out. You don't want that limiting factor. Like I would just X out those countries depending on what passport you have. If you're fortunate to have a US passport, which again, I think is the greatest gift that America gives its citizens. Then you don't have to worry as much. But there are some places I've been to, Algeria, and it was I did not want to move to Algeria. I was there for work, meeting with the government there, but I would never want to live there. So that is something to think about. You also have like the snowbirds, which are going further south now. So it used to be that all the snowbirds from like New York and New Jersey. I had a client in New Jersey, out of, what was that city? Right across this river. I'd gone up to visit them. But yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful city in northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And again, just like absolutely outrageous. Like he had what, obviously for me from Chattanooga would be a barely a middle class home. And it was like multi-million-dollar house. He's like, I have got to get out of here. I got to buy this business and get out of here. And just, it's very interesting because this becomes something. I think also it just made me think about my homie Andrew, who was working at Goldman Sachs, not Andrew that works with me at with Good Merger. So this is a guy we hung out in the city, and just the I think it opens your eyes to life change. So he was just thinking, okay, I want to buy a business. I'm happy in New York, but I want to buy a business just because Goldman Sachs sucks to work in, right? So I want to replace my income, which is pretty mad. The reason that it sucks so much and it can suck so much is because they pay a lot of money. So they pay a ton of money. And so, we're doing this deal really just to replace his income. So just like have a better lifestyle. He was, getting engaged in my kids, blah, blah, blah. So, but then he starts looking at deals like, man, like, okay, I could buy one of these internet businesses and then like I can live anywhere. And all of a sudden I can leverage geo arbitrage. So I can move somewhere else and not pay this outrageous cost of living in New York City, and buy a business that allows me to live remotely. And those aren't only internet-based businesses; those are also offline businesses that can be run remotely. Andrew with Good Merger is putting together a list of kind of some of those deals that we have our networks, whether it's an internet deal or a offline deal. It's a business that can be run from anywhere in the world. But you have those snowbirds that typically were in New York, in New Jersey, and they would go down to Miami. And back in the day, like people, it's so funny. My fund was based out of Miami. This is years and years ago. And so it's so crazy how expensive Miami has gotten. And so like the New York people would come down, and not only was it a break from the outrageous winters, but it was also a break from the prices, because it would, like, the cost of living was so much lower in Miami. Well, now people just moved, you've got remote work, you've got all this stuff. So Miami, instead of just being this place where you came to get a break, people living there, prices go up. So now people are coming further south. Which is really cool as well. Like, I think some people that have lived my lifestyle for a long time before COVID and the explosion of remote work are annoyed, and sometimes it isn't annoying. I just feel like planes were nowhere near as full, just places weren't as full. But I think it is really cool that, like, the world is just becoming more global. And I think the people that aren't moving around, learning other countries, building relationships, doing deals overseas are basically getting left behind and not getting the full benefit of that. So for me, I've adopted kind of this choose your own adventure lifestyle. So, typically I'm going to stay in a place for 3 months. And as I'm going through kind of my year, it allows me to decide where I want to live, when I want to live there, and not have the burden of feeling like, okay, here's my anchor of where I've got all of these commitments and all this stuff. Now, the other thing that it does create is, it's way better if you have a minimalist approach to this process. I talk in the Patreon about a deal that I did on an Airbnb, but it was after years of paying for a bunch of stuff. Americans, we love our stuff, and I had all this stuff that I loved. So I was paying like $500 a month, just throwing it out the window for this stuff. But I ended up doing a deal because it was, nice stuff. And so I did a deal with a friend who has some Airbnbs, like, hey, I'll furnish it, we'll split this. But I think that is just a transition to just how you think about deals. Like, everything is an opportunity to profit, even when you've got expenses. So I had this $500 expenses where I just threw money, probably just it hurts me to even think about, probably $20,000 and just threw away by not doing that kind of deal earlier, or just throwing away the stuff. I mean, it would have been better off just throwing it away, right? But at least I was able to, I'll earn my 20 grand back over the years with the deal that we put together. So it is good if you start to get into that minimalist mentality early on, if you're going to start this process. All right. Well, I thank y'all for listening. I am very curious, so check out some of the questions in here. Say hello to some folks. But I am curious what y'all's thoughts are between those three. Are you more of, or really, I guess, four? Are you the type of person who's like, hey, I never want to leave my country. I'm happy here. I never want to live anywhere else. This is the best country in the world. Are you the person that's like, no, I have my dream country. Like, I want to move to Italy and, like, eventually become an Italian? Are you an immigrant person? Are you an expat where you feel like, oh no, like, I will probably live in a place for 3 years and then look for the next place? Or do you feel like you are a nomad and just, moving around, choose your own adventure, no idea where you're going to be living next year? I don't know where I'm going to live next year. I have an idea of where I'm going to spend the rest of 2024, but 2025. Y'all can give me some suggestions, but I am interested in that. What category do you fall in? Let me know in the comments. All right, let's say hello to some people. What's up, Durwell? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for popping in. What's going on with the business, man? What's going on with your business in Texas? Give me an update. I want to hear. I love. It's a great niche. You're always going to be making money. Rich New Yorker. We're just talking about New York. What's up? Private equity nomad, doing deals all over the world. Rich New Yorker says, "True, Andrew built a great brand, a beautiful, beautiful brand, man. I just love that, and it's so interesting to see how trends change. You know, like obviously he was somebody I came across 10 years. I mean, it's like 10 years ago when I first moved overseas, and you know, like it just wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't this big thing. He had this little business, you know, did little events, you know, just it was not a big thing. And now over the years, like living, people are just becoming aware that, oh, like I need to get a broader vision of how and where I can live my life. And that's been beautiful to watch that business explode. What's up? Prince Lex says, greetings, Ace. Hello, hello. What is today's topic? We're talking about living abroad and the different options for those lifestyles. Awesome, awesome. Says, just got in. This is cool. So I am really excited. I've got a buddy that just moved. Actually, let me read the comment first. It says, I love to live in Africa during the winter. I've got a buddy that's from Atlanta, Justin, who just moved to Kenya, and he is like bugging me to get over there. So in Africa, I've only done Algeria and Morocco. Love Morocco. Algeria wasn't expecting to love it. It was for a deal that we were doing with the Algerian government, but it wasn't something where I was like, oh man, I'm excited to go to Algeria. And it gave me every reason not to be excited once I got there. So it was as expected. um, yeah, I really want to get to Kenya to visit him, but I'm most interested in Cape Town. The only downside to Cape Town is, you know, they have this kind of rolling blackout kind of thing with electricity, and like that could be a little annoying. But you know, I have to get on the ground and just see how it is. But yes, let me know, where are you thinking about in Africa? What countries are kind of at the top of your list? I've heard mixed things on Ghana. I've heard people that just really, really love it. And then I've heard the other extreme where like, people are like, no, like, but I also think, again, I think that like expectation is a big deal. And I think with a place like Ghana, you've got a bunch of people who have really been like pumping it up. And so when, you know, if you get over there and it doesn't live up to the hype, then I think people kind of will start down it. As y'all come in, please do hit the like button. That is the cost of entry. Yusuf says, peace, bro. Love the value of this talk. Hopped on late, but will rewatch from the beginning. Definitely will be splitting time over the next 3 to 5 years and plan on engaging your services prior to. Awesome, awesome, Yusuf. Thank you for popping in. Greatly appreciate it. Brian Herman says, hey, Ace, do you have any kids? Yes, I have 5 kids. Got one in Thailand, got one in Medellin, Colombia, got one in London, one in Lisbon, Portugal, and then Buenos Aires. No, I'm just kidding. I am just kidding. I do not have any kids. I've got two amazing nephews that are absolutely incredible. But I feel like if I were going to have kids, those would probably be the 5 countries that I would have a kid in. But no kids. But I think that is an important point. I know plenty of people, and I think, you know, I'm actually glad you brought that up, Brian, because I think of those 4 things, I think kids do come into play. You know, like the 4 options of um, living in a country, just staying there, immigrant, expat, being somebody who is, moving around like crazy, or just like staying in your same countries. I think there's some people that are saying, I'm going to stay in my country because I have kids. And I think that isn't necessary. I think that, just I know plenty of people that are living overseas. Actually was talking to that same buddy that has the 5,000 um, a month place in Bangkok, and we're just talking about how amazing the schools are, and like the schools that the top schools there, the schools that you can get into by having a kid. Like you're really putting your kid into a better situation because of that experience to get into great colleges, to get scholarships, and all of those things. So it is really, really valuable to give them that experience. And so I don't think that it's something where it's like, oh, I've got to stay here until my kids are like 18. You hear that kind of thing. Now, I also don't think that my lifestyle is probably the best for the kids, especially if they're school age. I think if they're babies, then it's like, they don't care. But I think once they're school age, then my lifestyle would not work. Um, unless you've got like 5 kids in 5 countries, and then you're just traveling to see them all. You know what I mean? So I do think that that is consideration, but I think that there are folks that, because they haven't done the research, think that it's something that's difficult than it is. Brian was laughing at the kid thing. Yeah. Uh, Prince Les says, "What do you think of a venture in Saint Vincent? Uh, Sandal Resort just opened there, so I haven't been there. So, um, I mean, Sandals is only going to open anywhere if it's like they've done the research, like it's going to be profitable. They know it's going to be profitable. So, I've done 2 hotel deals, and again, both have really worked out. One worked out tremendously well in Medellin. Um, called the Celestine Hotel if you're ever in Medellin, but it stays like booked. But that deal was done. But when people still like when I was coming down and doing that deal, um, the Narcos program had been released at the same time on Netflix, and people felt like it was like happening right then, like it was like the news, you know what I mean? And so people were like, my friends were worried about me. You got to be careful down there. I was just watching Narcos, man. They blowing up planes. But no, people were serious. It was still considered very, very dangerous. So I do think that trying to get in early in a place really, really helps. The second hotel deals, just standard, just, great return. You want diversification, all those things. I talked about this on the last video. If you didn't see that, definitely check that out. You want diversification of income from different currencies, which is one of the reasons to do overseas deals. And so, but yeah, I hadn't been there, hadn't done research on doing a business there, but I know that Sandals does do their research. First shout. Richard York says, being single with no kids like a cheat code. I think you're right. There's some folks that feel like I definitely have buddies that feel like having kids in business was their cheat code because the kid like put them in a different gear. So I think it's about perspective, but I definitely want to leverage my cheat code the same way that a father would leverage their cheat code. So this is a great one. Doro has 4 kids, who's one of our previous 8 HOCO members. And said he wants to stay in the country, but leave for the summer. And yeah, I think that that's beautiful. It also just gives the kids a different experience. And, that's one thing, man, I wish I would have spent more time overseas, even for my Spanish, because it's easier to get like a foundation of different languages when you are younger. Um, have you ever done a deal in entertainment and music, like a music label? So the thing that I will say, a lot of people are attracted to that. The thing that I have always felt, and that one of my mentors would talk to me about this, like staying away from um, almost like cool businesses, The cooler the business, the tougher it is to make money. Even if you just break it down to the basic dynamics of like, if you want to be a singer or if you want to be a model, you've got so much competition. And then even if you're in the top 10%, you don't make much money. You've got to be in the top 1% of 1% to really make money compared to all the people that are in it. And so I've generally stayed away from those because I don't really, so this is just a totally other thing. It's like, I don't necessarily believe in like, following your passion for money. You know what I mean? I think money is one thing and then passion is another thing. And so you get these rich people, they're like already rich, like, oh, you got to follow your passion. And you're like, oh, so were you passionate about manufacturing guns or some random thing? And they're like, oh, no, not really. But, it made me a bunch of money. So I think that it's great to just make the money and then follow whatever your passion is. Like, I think that's the more beautiful thing. Like if you're passionate about music, being able to go and make some money, and then like you just have the freedom to, basically express that art the way that you want to. All right, let's do this one, and we will bigger bounce out of here. Yusuf asks, can you summarize some of the strategies and approaches you've employed to create your lifestyle for those of us who are new to your content? So the most important thing is, I think, the financial freedom piece. You get way more options when you have that financial freedom piece. And so probably a great example would be, when I was back in the US, and, I'd done this deal on a business. It's called Homevestors. It's still a franchise. And so I bought one of the units of a franchise. And I was young, but I kind of understood, all right, I don't want to pay for expenses out of my working income. And so even with the business, I was running that business. And so I didn't want to take money from the business and just go buy the things that I wanted. Everything that I bought, it was like, I'm trying to create something that has passive income. So I had done a deal on this quadplex, and then I owner financed it to someone. And that owner financing was a certain income. Now, at the same time, I basically had this Mercedes that I wanted because back then I was just young and dumb. So, I'd already had this Audi, but then I was like, nah, you know what I really need? I need the Mercedes, this Mercedes little sports car. And so, but again, I was smart enough not to, even though it was, not the smartest decision, at one point I had like 4 cars, no kids, obviously. So it was just pointless. I was being young and dumb with money. But the part that was smart is that with each liability that I took on, I had to do an ad. So I kind of made the deal with myself. I'm not buying anything until I do a deal that can pay for the liability. So unless I do a deal on an asset that can pay for this liability, then I can't have it. And so that becomes a motivating factor. And so even today, like I'm always looking, like when I'm starting my year, that's something that continues. Like I'm looking at, all right, so I want to kind of have this change in my lifestyle. And so I've got to find a business that I can close. And that's why I like doing smaller deals, because each deal is kind of assigned to different things. Like, okay, this deal is assigned to pay for this set of liabilities. And so that becomes a really cool way to think about that. All right, folks, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. If you're not subscribed, what are you thinking? You get to jump on these lives. You get to have these cool conversations. Also, in addition to subscribing, like I said before, I only get the word spread about the channel if you share it with other people that are interested in this stuff, and it keeps the people cool. It keeps the folks cool in the community, and makes it fun to interact with folks. So be sure to do that. Don't forget, I am curious, of those 4 strategies in the comments, let me know which one you resonate the most with. And this Tonight we've got a AHC call. We've got our Holdco call, which is going to be a really cool one. So if you're in Acquisition Holdco, be sure to pop on this evening. If you have not connected with your specialist this week, be sure to shoot them a message and check in as well. And then Thursday, we've got our zero business in the Patreon. So we've got our not zero down, zero cost businesses and where to find those deals in the Patreon. If you're trying to get access to capital, check out that link in the description for that $1 million no credit check little hack. All right, folks, talk to y'all soon. Thanks for popping in.